This episode of the FanFiction Book Club deals with subjects of domestic violence and abuse. If you or someone you know is in an abusive situation, please reach out to the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE. That's 1-800-799-7233.
Hello, and welcome to the FanFiction Book Club podcast, a weekly podcast that explores the good, the bad, and the cringy of fanfiction, hosted by me, Ollie, and my lovely co-hosts, Poppy, G,
Heyo,
and Tstan.
Hello.
Every month, we scour the internet to bring you 4 different fanfic reads, and our theme this month is Cinderella. Check out our website at fanfictionbookclub.com or follow us on Twitter and Instagram at fanfictionados for the full lineup of stories for the month and connect with us on the web. So Cinderella, we've already kind of touched up on our views on Cinderella and all of our kind of thoughts regarding both the Disney version and the Grimm's fairy tale version. If you haven't checked out our first 2 episodes of our podcast, please do check it out. We have some really great content there. But to briefly expand more on my thoughts on Cinderella, I have just never been a big fan of damsels in distress. I like to read stories about strong female leads. If the main character has to rely on everyone else to get where they need to be, it's just kind of not exciting for me. And of course, it doesn't mean to say that I don't like the story of Cinderella. It's just not a storyline that I'd want to read as a strong, independent 20-something woman.
21.
What are your thoughts?
20 what? Like 20, 29? Pushing 30?
No.
You could be 21
I'm just an
or
entity.
29. I am merely an entity.
The world may never know.
So much mystery. Make sure you don't have your birthday checked on Twitter. Then they'll know for sure. They can do the math.
Oh, no.
Or ask
Then
Google to do the math for them. Yeah. I'm in the same boat as you, Ollie. But sometimes I'm okay with the damsel if by the end of the story she becomes not a damsel. Yeah. I guess that's my thoughts on that. But what fanfic are we reading this week?
So the fanfic that we are discussing this week is Breathe, a Cinderellic Labyrinth by Diana K. Wary on FanFiction. And this was written, I think, in 2011 and it has about 20K words. I don't think it has any tags. I think it has just the genre it falls into, which is drama romance.
Yes. Drama romance, characters, Jareth.
Who is the Goblin King, because this is not only a Cinderella story, it is a Labyrinth story. It is a crossover of Cinderella and Labyrinth. So,
which is interesting. Does the description say it's is it in the crossover category on fanfic.net? On fanfiction.net?
No. It's in movies for Labyrinth. It's under Labyrinth.
Oh, it is. So, yeah. Ollie, how did you find it? Did you just literally type in Cinderella into the search window?
I think I just did a general search for Cinderella, and then this was under complete. It was just Cinderella. I don't know how I found it, actually. I think maybe it's just through the search bar.
Okay. I don't know that I've ever gone on fanfiction.net and just typed in Cinderella. I think I've always searched via the categories. I didn't even think about doing that. Yeah. Look at Ollie, living like a free spirit.
Right? Yeah, that's me.
Going her own way.
Yeah, doing her own thing. Path. Okay.
She's not a damsel.
No. She's going to type Cinderella into that search bar. Pushing 30s. It's okay, Ollie.
Okay.
So we'll be soon.
We'll all be 30 soon. Isn't that a thought?
I mean, we'll all be 30 one day.
One day, if we make it.
One day.
if this virus doesn't wipe us all out.
Dun, dun, dun.
boy, topical.
I can create a new
Too
world.
soon, Poppy. Too soon. I'm sorry, guys. She's really insensitive. She's not woke like us three.
Oh, really?
No, Poppy's super woke. She grew up in the mean streets.
I'm
The
woke
mean
AF.
streets of Washington. All right. So,
Seattle Road.
what? 206? Repping the 206.
What?
What?
Are you fronting, Ollie?
Front? Are you fronting?
No, you're the one going, what?
Oh, I was doing what's his name?
I don't know.
Macklemore.
I don't know the reference. Is that a Macklemore?
Macklemore.
Oh, you're popping
Yeah.
tags. What?
Boys?
That'll get cut. Maybe it won't. We'll see. Story, Ollie. What is Breathe a Cinderella Labyrinth about?
Right. So, like a brief synopsis of the story. It's not a super complex story, but so Breathe a Cinderella Labyrinth. It's about a girl named Elegance Danoon. She's a 17-year-old girl from a small town where apparently no one gives a crap about her. Her mom is dead and life is pretty much miserable living with her dad. Dad is super abusive to her. He's a terrible person. He's a terrible drunk. There's really no character arc for him. He beats his daughter every day. So Ellie is just kind of like existing in this like vicious cycle of pain and abuse that she like sees no escaping from. And then one day she's just chilling in her room and there's like a storm outside and lightning. And then Ellie sees like a white blob out in her backyard. And so she investigates and discovers a wounded owl. And then fast forwarding, Ellie's just taking care of this wounded owl and feeds it peaches and lunch meat, which I thought was a weird little combo to give your owl.
That's weird that you latched onto that.
She said peaches, and I was like, yeah, but like,
I can clarify a little bit on the peaches part. In the Labyrinth movie, Jareth uses a peach, to put Sarah in like a hallucinogen style, like dance sequence. So they associate
there was
him with
some reference
peaches
there.
in the fanfiction.
okay, I see what you did there.
That part I can clarify on. I don't know. I mean, if I saw an owl in my backyard, I might throw a piece of lunch meat. Why not?
The lunch meat makes sense. You know, ignoring the sodium content and, you know, the preservatives.
Okay.
I won't go into it.
How big is this owl?
Continuing
how
on.
big are owls?
Are they like bigger than a bread box? I'm trying to think how big of an owl he is.
I'm pretty sure owls are like...
it kind of depends on the owl.
Yeah, I think owls are like shockingly large.
That's what
Like,
I'm
you don't
saying. I think they're
that
pretty big.
But they're pretty big. Yeah.
Like,
Barn
I'm just
owls
thinking of the
are
Harry
about a
Potter,
foot and a half.
Like
Yeah.
Harry Potter's owl, that's what I envisioned.
Yeah, that's what I was
White
thinking.
owl.
The
Yeah.
snowy owl. Yeah.
Foot and a half tall and up to 1.5 pounds.
Wait, what? Only a pound? I think it's more than a pound.
It says 1.5 pounds.
That seems pretty light. I mean, I guess they have to fly.
Well, I think
They
they
have to
have to
fly.
be. They're birds.
Hollow
They can
bones.
fly. Yeah. Hollow bones. Yeah, there you go.
Okay. She picks up this owl and feeds it peaches and lunch meat. Good catch, because I just glossed over that detail.
She thought peaches were funny, and I'm like, how is she eating at peaches of all things? I mean, owls are like carnivores, right?
Yeah,
I
the
guess it
peaches
doesn't
are
matter.
a labyrinth fic trope at this point.
Okay. So Tristan,
Yeah.
you're kind of our like resident labyrinth expert.
Oh god. I have
really.
read so much Labyrinth fanfiction.
That is a world I never explored.
Before, during, and after I met you all.
I know, because
Michael,
remember we had a sleepover at your place, and I think we watched Labyrinth, and I know I fell asleep like a quarter of the way through. So I still
was the
don't know the
first
plot to Labyrinth.
It is one of my my guilty pleasures. Yeah, I think I've read the most, and this is a very, I don't want to say typical, But this hits all the good story beats of a Labyrinth story.
From 2011.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it hits all the good beats. So, like, as a Labyrinth story, 10 out of 10.
It is Labyrinth expert approved. Okay, so Ollie, continue with the story.
She feeds this owl, which is a lunch meat. She sings to this owl and talks to it like a real person. And then one day her dad is like, he's beating her, and the owl transforms magically into a man who is the one and only Jareth LaFay. So the story progresses from there. The Goblin King. And our main character falls madly in love with this guy, this Goblin King. And yeah, again, it's not a very complex story. It's a very basic, like, drama, romance, kind of like YA type of story. In the end, everything's like a happily ever after type, very Disney, as a Disney Cinderella would have it. Mm-hmm. So how did y'all like the story?
I thought that it was good. I liked it. It got a little rambly at points.
Sorry.
No, it's but the first chapter, it's like this super dark, like Ellie is getting beat by senseless by her father, and it's super, super dark, and like it's awful. And I was like, oh my god, I feel so bad for her. And then it drops her full name as Elegance Danoon, and it just undercuts the entire darkness of it. I was like, what? Just like, it was awful, and it's like, Elegance Danoon. I was like, huh?
Tristan, what did you think?
I will agree with Poppy. However, again, knowing the fic, knowing the culture that is Labyrinth fanfictions, this is very common. Having it be super dark, not so much the name. Sometimes the name is not
ridiculous.
In the movie, it's Sarah, like
Sarah Williams, so like super generic.
And he meets Sarah again at the end of the story to kind of like tie it back.
Spoilers for a movie that's over 40 years old. Or so. Anyway. So yeah, but this is very common with these kind of fanfics, is that it'll be super dark, and then he'll save the girl, and it'll be like sunshine and roses.
Tragic love story. Tragic at the beginning.
Not so tragic love story.
Yeah.
I almost kind of felt like, and I don't remember the original movie that well. Was Sarah, was she abused at home or anything? That character?
She was a whiny 15-year-old. No.
And she just got spirited away by a Goblin King, right?
She wished her brother away.
Okay. Because she found a book? Is that...
She had the book.
She had the book. Okay.
It was the story about someone like her story. Like, it's very similar to a Cinderella story where, like, a stepmother takes over.
Yeah.
But in her reality, the stepmom was fine.
Yeah, the only
decent woman, and
the only reason
I take care of her baby brother.
Okay, because the only reason I ask that is because, the story was probably written by a teenager, which is why it feels insensitive. But I kind of reading it, I was almost offended by how she was in this horrible situation and her father was beating her, and they just it felt like they kind of made light of it from the Goblin King's perspective. It's almost like it's a very heavy plot device, and it's very Cinderella. It definitely fits within the Cinderella story formula, but it's almost weirdly like it's not as, I don't know, it's almost like the horror of it is diminished. Like she's literally thrown down the stairs and stabbed, and then it doesn't seem like emotional trauma has really been dealt to her because of that. And you don't really see how that affects her interactions with this man, with the Goblin King. So it was a weird disconnect. I totally get from like a 50-year-old writing about a romantic situation and just kind of throwing some sort of conflict in there. But what kept me from really enjoying the story was that detail, because this is such a heavy thing. And I don't think it was addressed with care. But how do you expect a teenager to address it with care when their main focus is just, I'm going to bone the Goblin King?
Yeah, again, super common in this genre of like ultra tragedy and then just kind of whisked away to fairyland. Especially 2011. Very common.
That was an angsty. I'm trying to think of like, what was I reading in 2011 in terms of fanfic?
Where were we in 2011? That was high school, right?
When did we graduate? I don't even know when we graduated.
2011 was our sophomore year, and we went to college.
You know, I wasn't reading very much fanfic when we were in community college.
God, I was.
I was still reading Inuyasha.
I think I might have read some Naruto fanfic, but I was reading a lot of fanfic when we were in high school, and then community college happened, and then I picked it back up again when I went to art school. Is when I picked it back up again. But I think at community college I wasn't reading. I think I might have been maybe reading Hunger Games. I'm trying to think. Possibly Hunger Games and Naruto, if at all.
You read Naruto?
Of course I read Naruto fanfic.
I'm so proud of you.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it was all Sasuke Sakura stuff. I wasn't into the Naruto Sasuke. I don't know why everyone kept shoving that down everyone's throats. It's like, no, not my thing. And I guess that stuff was kind of angsty.
It's just the day that, right? Like, people were emo was still like a big thing.
Yeah,
like,
I guess that was like still a thing in 20.
Well, it was like fading out.
It was fading out when we were in high school.
It was transforming into the hipsters.
And now the e-boys and girls.
E-boys, that's a thing.
And now emo
you sounded really excited about that, Ollie.
Oh no, I was just saying that's a thing, and it's a tragic thing. that's a thing.
The other thing that was a little off for me was the first person perspective of the Goblin King. He kind of sounded like a 15-year-old. Did anybody else get that vibe?
Yes.
I didn't get that, but I thought he would, like, chapter 3 was when it first switched to his perspective.
Yes.
And holy crap, he was just going on and on and on.
I'm going to read you guys. Yeah, I'm going to...
Get it, like...
So I'm going to read you guys a little bit. So the story, when it's in Ellie's perspective, it's a limited third person. And then for whatever reason, Jareth's perspective... Jareth? Am I saying that right?
Jareth.
Yep.
Yeah.
Jareth's perspective, the Goblin King's perspective, is in first person, which I think is an odd choice when you have one character in third person and another character in first person, but to each their own. So this is the start of chapter 3, and this is what goes on in the Goblin King's head.
It's hundreds of years old.
Hundreds of years old. Let's see if this checks out. My problem started just hours before coming to Earth, back down in the underground. Every year, I take a 2-month vacation from my royal responsibilities and travel above to relax and be among humans. Really, humans are fascinating creatures. Some are beautiful and kind, while others can be terribly ugly and wicked. It's such a wide range of personality. No one is ever sure how a human will react until you get a feel for them and know them. But anyway, I'm getting off track. Yes, I go above to get a change of scenery once a year, and I'm gone for 2 months. Why did he repeat himself?
I don't know.
I read that and I was like, I thought I just read this. And there's more.
That's a yeah. Sorry, keep going.
Okay. I travel in my owl form, yet when I meet someone interesting, who's more likely than not female, I reveal myself. And is that fun? And my questions immediately after reading that paragraph were, why would he introduce himself like that? Why would the author introduce him like that? Why is everyone obsessed with women? Why does the Goblin King's inner monologue sound like a 15-year-old girl?
And so this whole repeating himself and herself and everything, it goes on every single chapter. Like the first couple paragraphs recap the previous chapter. And it's like, duh, I understand what happened. I just read it. Just keep going with the story.
Well, the weird thing is I think the author was trying to give the story longevity, like make it a longer story by recapping what happened from each character's perspective. Because Ellie would do something, and then you'd immediately get Jareth's point of view, but he doesn't really have a personality, so I don't really care what his thoughts are on putting his tongue in Ellie's mouth to heal her, quote unquote. You know, it was pointless. But I know that there are stories where an author will do that. They will have a situation and they'll play it out from one character's perspective, and then the next chapter is just the other character's perspective on the same situation with maybe a couple differences because they weren't together for the whole entire scene. But the only way that that's interesting is if the two characters have very different perspectives and interpretations of what happened. That's the only time that that's interesting. But because
if it doesn't repeatedly happen.
Yeah, and if it doesn't repeatedly happen, like back in the Twilight days, remember there was that leak of that Midnight Sun thing that Stephanie was working on, where it was literally the same story, but from Edward's perspective. I mean, but it makes sense.
I thought that was interesting because in the first book, Edward had like a completely different
he had a completely different experience. So that's like the case where it makes sense because it's actually like a 100-year-old vampire versus this teenage girl coming from, is she in California? Somewhere hot. Arizona.
West Compton. Yeah. West Compton. Oh, yeah.
West Compton?
That's the Cinderella Labyrinth. They're from West Compton, Missouri.
I did not catch that. I did not catch that at all.
Change. I didn't catch that either.
Was that at the beginning?
Like West Compton, Missouri.
Is there a Compton, Missouri?
It's like a neighborhood. Yeah, so hold on. West.
So this person must be from Missouri because that seems weirdly specific.
Must be some small town.
It's in Missouri. It's a historic community in the western Webster County in the state of Missouri. It's just a little area of
the west side.
So the author is familiar with Missouri.
There is indeed a Compton, Missouri, which sounds bizarre.
Right.
Straight out of Compton, not that Compton.
I'm straight out of Compton, Missouri.
Just under their breath.
Going back to like how they kind of recap in Jareth's point of view, this is a fan fiction, so it's not posted all together. So probably every chapter is every week or so. So having maybe a recap is necessary.
What kind of crazy person reads an incomplete fanfic and follows along with it?
In 2011, a lot of people.
Yeah.
I only read.
I never wanted to read in process fan fictions.
They're teenagers. I don't trust them to finish stuff.
Fanfiction.net actually logs that. It has 19 follows, so 19 people had it in their email every week.
Nice.
Or however long.
Had this story?
That's dedication.
That is dedication. Yeah, I only ever followed one and a half maybe fanfics, and Ollie Remember that we followed the same fanfic and then she just fell off the face of the earth.
Are you talking about Kitty Howell?
Yes, I am talking about Kitty Howell's fanfic.
Oh, gosh.
I followed her. I remember getting email updates.
I never got email updates. I would just check in every so often. I had it bookmarked and I'd just check in every couple of weeks and see how far she got. And she never finished it. Kitty Howell.
Come on, girl.
Putting you on blast. If that's even your real name. So I understand when it's done right, it's really cool. But in this instance, it was kind of overkill. I think that I don't know. I wanted to like this story because I didn't really have a problem with the writing style. I thought it was easy to read, easy to follow. I think just the characterization is really where my frustration in the story lies. Because I think of Jareth as like this Goblin King with years and years and years of experience, and I couldn't for the life of me figure out why the Goblin King would want this 17-year-old girl after 3 weeks in the basement with her, and they never have like a real conversation. There's just exposition about them supposedly having conversations about very shallow things.
Yeah, I will agree with you on that for sure. And it's again, it was a thing.
Yeah.
When you're 15 or so, I'm just guessing, you tend to write what you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of hard to write a perspective from I mean, David Bowie was 40 when he was in Labyrinth.
Yeah.
So regardless of how old the Goblin King is, it's hard to write from a 40-year-old man's perspective.
Yeah.
But that was also something that came up with the original, was how young Sarah was versus the Goblin King.
I was always weirded out by that detail in the movie.
I think that detail in fanfictions just got worse and worse and worse. And I noticed a trend, at least as I got older. I saw more fics of it came back to Sarah, or it came back to OCs, but they were in their 20s, like mid-20s, early 30s. It was a nice change of pace. But yes, personally for me, I read this and I just could not get the age difference out of my brain.
No, I couldn't either.
I'm an adult now, and all I could think is this child.
I don't know that I would have thought this was hot when I was 15, knowing that he was ancient.
I know that. Yeah.
Like, I probably would have, because, like, when I was 17 and I read something about someone who was 17, I was like, sweet, this could happen to me. You know, like, that's what went through my 17-year-old brain. But now that I am in my mid-20s, it's like, girl, you're 17, and he's like hundreds of years old. Yeah. This is weird. And I wrote that down. And then as soon as I wrote that down in my notes, she turned 18. Because she turns 18 in the story. And I was like, that's a little better, but
still weird.
Still
nope.
Like,
nope.
I appreciate that because I was thinking the whole time, I'm like, how old is this girl? And then her birthday rolls around and I'm like, thank God she's at least 18 before anything happens. But I do have a question. So when we read these fanfics, we associate the characters with the physical representations that we see on like the covers of books and in movies and on TV and whatnot. So while I was reading this, I saw the Goblin King is 40-year-old David Bowie, which made it really weird for me considering she's underage and then barely legal halfway through the book. But I was just thinking, I'm like, well, in Twilight, he admits to being 119 and Bella's 17, and I was still into that because Edward Cullen was like, he looked like he was 17.
And he was acted like a teenager.
And he was permanently 17. So I'm wondering if I went into the story knowing this was the Goblin King, but knowing that he looked like super hot, whatever that actor who plays Edward Cullen's name is. I sadly forgot it. I am so sorry, Robert Pattinson. You're very handsome. But if we went into it knowing that, I feel so shallow for saying this, but I think I'd be okay with it.
It would have definitely been different.
But the entire time, I just kept thinking, like, this is like a 40-year-old man, and he's wearing tights.
Funny, when I was reading this, I didn't see David Bowie's face. I just created a different person, like a younger.
How old was he?
And that's
looking
totally
person.
fair.
In my head, I had him as like looking in his early to late 20s. I didn't think she was trying to pull from David Bowie at all. And it's weird because they don't explain what he looks like or anything like that.
Yeah, because I just
thought like she was creating her own person.
You know.
Yeah, that's because I didn't get a really good explanation of what he looked like. I could just associate David Bowie, so I thought of him in his tight pants with his crotch just like sticking out. So it made it weird for me. What are you putting up, Tristan? That's better.
That is David Bowie at 20.
Because I tried to look up, and I looked up pictures of David Bowie younger, kind of like, because Tristan, for people who can't see, Tristan just sent a picture of David Bowie in the chat that is him when he was younger. So I could see that. And I think I could be okay with it. I'm still weirded out by the age difference, but at least if he appeared younger, it's still weird, but if he appeared younger, I don't know that I would.
Into an owl. You can transform yourself any age, I would assume.
But she never says. The author never says how old the Goblin King. She didn't give any real descriptors of what he looked like, other than
she gives so many descriptions of herself, but not of him. She only describes his poet shirt. That's all I like.
Yeah, I remember his shirt and he had tight pants. Did you guys find it weird how into describing her own body she was?
Like just
describing
of their appearances?
Ellie's body.
Oh. No.
No, this was kind of a trend. Yeah.
I mean, it's trendy, but I don't know that it was. It's weird that the author would choose to, in third person, describe her as much as she's described, and then David Bowie isn't really. Not David Bowie, and then that other character. I know. That was the time, because they'd say they look like this, their body's like this, and they were wearing this outfit. Yep. Which isn't as trendy nowadays to do. Mm-hmm.
So here's the thing. This is how the author described the Goblin King when he first transformed back from an owl. The man had light blonde hair coming to a mane at his shoulders and pale skin. He wore leather pants tucked into his boots at the calf and an open white poet's shirt. His teeth were somewhat jagged, but white and well kept. His eyes, which were glued to the floor as he tried to control his breath, were two different colors, a golden brown and a sky blue. He was alluring and powerful looking, and after what just happened, he terrified Ellie. That just
makes me think of David Bowie.
That makes me think of David Bowie in Labyrinth.
Yeah.
What bothered me most about that paragraph, and this is nerd Tstan coming out.
Show us your nerd.
David Bowie's eyes aren't two different colors. They're both blue. He had a traumatic head injury as a child, and so it blew out one of his pupils. So he has blue eyes, just one of them, the pupil is bigger. That's it. That's the difference.
I thought that was a thing that they changed the eye color in the movie.
No.
Because I know, just so everyone knows, I know nothing about David Bowie. I know next to nothing about Labyrinth. So I didn't even think of this as a David Bowie thing. I thought maybe he had color contacts for the movie or something.
Nope.
I wonder if this is like a Mandela effect.
I don't know.
Two different colors, but it's actually not.
No, he's just got light blue eyes, and so because one of them, the pupil is so dilated, it just looks so stark, you know? I just posted a picture of him. in Labyrinth.
You can see it too.
You guys can see.
See, this is the face I was seeing throughout this entire thing. So just imagining that face, putting his tongue down her throat. It's just not...
is that with fan fictions, especially that time, when you said Jareth in the Labyrinth fan fiction, that was the face.
Yeah.
There was no alternates. There was no... They didn't have a comic... They made some comics, didn't have the comic book reference, didn't have any of the young reference. That face.
So
they did make a comic where he was young and it was very cute, by the way.
So in short, that was probably the most unsettling part of this story, is just the age difference between him and imagining middle-aged David Bowie with this young girl. And nothing against David Bowie. He's a handsome man. He didn't look very handsome in this movie, I'm sorry. And it just made it even weirder. The age difference plus the craziness. And I couldn't conceivably see how they would find each other appealing.
Yeah. Well, again, speaking as someone who was at one point 17 and in this fan fiction, this fandom, he's pretty in like a terrifying way. At least that's how I've always thought about it. So I don't see any reason why someone wouldn't be like, oh, he's hot. I just can't see the other way. I can't see, David Bowie as the Goblin King going, hey, this 17-year-old, yeah, I'll bang that.
Yeah. Of all the choices.
The way that he's written is that he's kind of a womanizer. And he'll just do whatever, but because of her situation and her father is beating her, she was taking such good care of him as an owl that he decided he was like, I'm just not gonna. He wasn't gonna try to push it, and then she comes for him, and he's like, all right.
So let's.
Yeah, it's
okay.
The womanizer aspect is very strange to me because that's definitely not like canon.
Well, I think
that's entirely made up.
I think that...
Well, it's a fan fiction, so...
Yeah.
No, I know. But, like, it happens a lot. So that was like, where'd you get that?
I didn't get the sense that he was a womanizer from this. Where in the text did you guys get that vibe?
He was a womanizer?
Yeah.
I mean, the thing that you read.
Oh, just that last sentence?
He comes down every 2 months to find a woman, pretty much.
Oh, is that why because I just thought he was literally going on a vacation, and then if in the off chance that he met someone interesting, most likely a woman, he would reveal himself. I didn't get that as I didn't interpret that as every
interesting is in italics, so it's like interesting,
I thought that the author was trying to make him seem cute, because just initially reading Jareth's first person POV, it sounded very much like a 15-year-old. So then I tried to put like a whimsical spin on it, where the character was kind of like trying to be old but young at the same time, and I read it as like a grandpa trying to be silly kind of thing. Like I almost interpret it as more of a cheesy line than the Goblin King's gonna get some sort of way. But that's just how I interpreted it, because I thought I was kind of being, when I was reading it through the first time, like, well, maybe I'm kind of being unfair just assuming that this is the voice of a 15-year-old, even though it still read that way to me. So I tried to like read through a second time and kind of apply like a more theatrical way of expressing what the author had him supposedly thinking in his inner monologue. So I didn't catch the womanizer bit, but let's talk about the romance between these two. So we kind of lightly touched on the fact that it kind of seemed implausible for only being in the basement for 3 weeks for them to fall in love. But we talked a lot about the age difference. one thing that I did like about their romance that I think more just romance novels can take a hint from is that he was very respectful of her sexuality and of her inexperience, did not push her into anything, was definitely like, is this okay multiple times? Like, guys on college campuses can learn from this.
He got her
he
got her consent for everything.
Just every base that he went to.
I want to read.
Because if it wasn't for the age issue, I would say this is a very hot way of approaching a romance and approaching like the physical aspect of a romance. It was just so weird, the age difference. So it's almost like I couldn't get into it as much as I would if they were like maybe it was an urban fantasy novel and this woman was like in her 20s and he's whatever age he is, and the perfect excuse to start a physical relationship is if I kiss people I can heal them. Like, that's so
let's go over that. So
yeah,
Ellie gets abused by her father basically every single night. And when she comes back down into the basement, she locks the door, and the Goblin King has these powers of healing, and so he kisses her wounds, and her wounds go away. And the first time that happens, he's asking, is this okay? Is this okay? Is everything okay? And she's like, yeah, whatever, just heal me, you know? And so it was very sweet, you know? Like, he just wanted to heal her, and it wasn't a sexual thing, you know?
No.
Until it was.
Yes, it was a sexual thing until it was. So I have this bit from chapter 8.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm going to read the whole thing. I'll read the first part and then we can chat a bit and we'll see if I want to read the second part. But she is, in chapter 8, she's being abused again by her father. And I don't remember exactly what happens. I think he like punches her in the stomach or something. So he's been over the couple of days, he's been like kissing her injuries on her arms and whatnot. So she gets an injury on her stomach, which involves like a little more of an intimate.
It's across her chest.
Oh, it's across her chest.
He's like tried to stab her.
I thought he tried to stab her on her birthday.
That was 8. Yeah, you know, you're right. This is the same chapter.
Is that, maybe this is before she goes, I don't remember if this is before. No, this is probably after she goes upstairs.
Right before they bang.
Yeah, this is right before they bang. So she gets...
That was really crude.
But they totally bang. But in a rated teen way, which I appreciate. But he goes, "I'm sorry," he said, trying to keep calm. "This will be invading your privacy a bit, but I have to do it. I'll let you slap me afterwards, okay?" And then without saying anything else, he bent down and kissed her wound, along with half of her most private self. Ellie was coherent enough to realize she didn't mind him kissing her like that. In fact, in that moment, when she thought she possibly might die, she realized 2 very important things. Number 1, she was in love with Jareth. And number 2, she wasn't afraid of being close to someone and cherished, at least not now. She had been afraid of her father all her life. She didn't want to be scared of anything else now. She faced hell every day at home, so why fear it? And then after that, she asks him to bang her. But I thought that was like a really romantic moment, and I'm so sad that it was wrapped up in this fanfic, because I think their romance could have been, I don't know. It's got some good bones. The romance has some really good bones, and I think it has some really good moments. But that number 1, she's in love with Jareth, totally get it. Number 2, she wasn't afraid of being close to someone and cherished. We didn't really see any instances in the story where she fought being close to anybody, because the only other character is her dad.
Mhm.
So I would have liked to have seen something to instigate her opening herself up to someone, because it never occurred to me that she had a problem opening up to anyone, because you don't see her interact with anyone besides her dad.
Yeah, it's like it's implied, but it's
Yeah.
not implied well.
No, it's not implied well. So I thought that was a weird number 2 to have. Like, it's sweet, but
Yeah.
it's that section is sweet on its own, but in context of the whole story, you don't get it. And I almost wanted to like just fill a bunch of details in and make some stuff up in order to make this great, because I think the romance had a really good opportunity to be great, but the fact that they only met each other over 3 weeks.
Did they actually give a time frame?
Yeah. They gave it
That was like,
time frame from her birthday. It's about 3 weeks, because he's an owl for like 4 days or something. And then he said it was going to take him another month or so to be up to full magical power to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And can I just interject that
Yeah.
I kind of don't like that they call each other precious.
I didn't even notice that. I probably just ignored that detail. Did they say that a lot?
Yes, he calls her precious like all the time, and it's weird.
Does she call him precious?
She starts calling him precious, and he thought it was cute that she started using his nickname for her for him. But I don't like precious, because it just reminds me of what's that guy, Smeagol?
It seems demeaning.
You know?
To clarify, it's a thing from the movie.
I felt like it must be, but it was still like, I just don't.
No,
I
it
just
was creepy when he did it in the movie too.
I just personally don't enjoy that pet name. It's just weird to me.
Yeah, no, the movie was also like creepy with it, because during the movie Sarah is 16.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because
by the way, age difference here, not unprecedented.
Yeah. And like this, the author's not trying to be creepy, but just the fact that he says precious made it creepy.
Well, because precious is like a term you use with your child, like, you're my precious baby.
Yeah, it sounds too like you're a small child.
Yeah,
like
it's to me it's I don't know that demeaning, but in that context, it's almost a weirdly possibly demeaning.
It just gives me the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah,
but
the thing that actually bothered me about that, and I agree with you, Poppy. I totally agree with you on the precious being a little weird. It's the the phrase they use is precious thing. It's the thing part that bothers me.
Precious
thing?
Yes.
You're not a person, you're a thing.
Did he call her precious thing?
Yes.
I'm thinking in this book I ignored some.
A lot of it was kind of cringy. I mean, honestly, creepy. I just got cringy.
Like, I think that, so when he says, yes, precious, it's like, yes, precious. I just can't get Smeagol out of my mind. But if he said, yes, precious thing, I feel like that in my mind is better, because it eliminates the precious type thing.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, you definitely got the Smeagol association going on.
Like, I couldn't stop. I haven't seen Lord of the Rings, but I got.
Oh my gosh.
You've never seen Lord of the Rings, Poppy?
I've seen like the first one but I couldn't get through it. I kept falling asleep.
I'm in the same boat.
You and SG fall asleep to movies, and like, I don't blame you. But it's really hard to show like fantasy.
It's why we're soulmates.
Like, Lord of the Rings is the only movie that I just can't stay awake for.
Yeah, it's tough.
Like 50 hours long. It's so
long. 50. Oh god.
Which is weird, because I got through all the Harry Potter movies just fine.
No, me too. I don't know if it's just Harry Potter interests me more, but
I don't know.
It's like basically the same.
I couldn't get through those, and I couldn't get through Star Wars. The Lord of the Rings or the Star Wars. I just couldn't.
Get through Star Wars. Just can't get through Lord of the Anyways, this is not a Lord of the Rings fan fiction.
Whoa, yeah.
We'll get to that at some point.
We'll get to it.
So, Tristan, I know there's like a Babe song or something.
Oh, God.
Did you catch that Babe reference? Can you explain that to me?
It was hard not to catch that reference because it was just
it was cheesy. So it's in chapter 9, and I can read it. So this is Ellie talking. I'm guessing you won't kiss me then, she sighed. I backed away to look at her and push her hair back. Elegance. I thought you knew. Knew what? That you remind me of the Babe. And she looked at me quizzically. What Babe? The Babe with the power. What power? The power of love, my precious thing. The power to make a Goblin King fall in love again. And with that, I kissed her lips and pushed her down onto the mattress. I was going to make this the best night of her life, or I would die trying.
Drama.
That was like so cringe. That was so cringe.
Okay.
So what's this Babe thing? Please explain it to me.
The reason I made that noise while you're reading that, because in the movie, he is singing this to a baby. The song is talking about an actual baby.
Is it?
Well, it and Sarah. It's kind of a mix. But the point is that he is holding a baby while singing this song to his goblins.
Are these direct lines from the song?
Yes.
So that you remind me of the Babe.
Mm-hmm.
What babe? The Babe with the power.
The power.
What power?
The power of voodoo is where that.
Okay, I thought it was voodoo.
Yep. And put it in the Discord chat.
Okay. I will have to listen to it after we're done. Yeah.
But
like the power of voodoo. Hoodoo. Do what? Remind me of the Babe or something like that. You know, it's like it's a circle.
Yep.
So why watch the
and
Labyrinth?
Then something about baby crying hard is whatever. Yeah. He's singing. He's holding a baby and singing it.
So
That's what makes it weird.
So that was just a reference for the true fans, is all. Yes. That was just a little thing for a very obvious Easter egg for the true fans.
It was so obvious that I, not a true fan who have only seen Labyrinth once, got it. Like,
I mean, I vaguely remember that song. I just know the power of voodoo, hoodoo, you do, or something like that. I remember that part and something about a babe. But I wasn't sure of the whole context.
I remember seeing the GIF compilations on Tumblr of it.
I didn't know those existed. We'll have to check those out.
Throwback.
I know, right? That's where we were in 2011. We were on Tumblr.
Oh, God.
Oh, Tumblr days!
God, this just that paragraph or that section of words just bothered me because I knew what the original was referencing. I was like, that's not a song you sing to someone you're about to bang. That's a song you sang to a baby. And apparently it was 20 years before the events of the story.
Yeah, so the movie Labyrinth took place 20 years before this fanfiction.
Which would make the baby in question older than the main character.
Yes.
Oh.
Yep.
Wow, I don't want to think about that. Ew. Oh.
Well, that's what makes it weird, the fact that he's an old man and he's into a 17-year-old. Old man.
It's like, it's already weird, but that's weirder.
See, the baby in question in the movie would have been 20 at the time of this story. Older than the main character.
Yeah. That's not great.
So that was the last oh wait, I guess I'm trying to think of like what Labyrinth references were there. So there was the book too, from the original Labyrinth, that this girl's mom, that what's her name, Ellie, that Ellie's mom just happened to pick up at a garage sale, and she just
has like a spell book.
So what is that book?
Okay, the book. There is no canon answer for that. However, the book does not exist. They never created one. And the general consensus is that it was given to Sarah by the Goblin King.
Okay.
She just sold it at a garage sale.
and she just has it? Because I was wondering if, like, I was about to be really weirded out because Ellie was talking about, oh yeah, my mom had this book at a garage sale. And I'm like, is Sarah her mom? Because that would be really messed up.
Oh,
if
God.
Sarah was her mom.
Oh, no.
No.
But thank goodness it didn't end up that way. Because I was trying to think, what's Sarah's last name?
Her mom did buy it from Sarah at her garage sale.
Those fics do exist, though.
They do, because I was like, this. Yes. I'm barely hanging on with the age difference, and then if Ellie happens to be Sarah's daughter and Sarah died, or Sarah's the one that died in a car crash.
I mean, that's kind of a Peter Pan type thing, you know? Like,
right.
There's the first
Peter Pan 2.
There's Peter Pan where he's with Wendy, not really with Wendy, but he wants her to stay, and she goes away, and then her daughter,
that's right, her daughter
like goes with
I guess Pan. That's true.
Yeah, but Peter Pan looks like the
Peter
same
Pan
age
is a
as
child.
The kid. Yeah.
I mean, he's probably as old as the Goblin King, though. Like,
yes, but he looks like a child.
He looks like a child and he acts like a child, and there's nothing sexual about it. There's nothing sexual about Peter Pan.
It's all very innocent.
Yeah, it's all very innocent. Yeah. Like, I get like best friendship with someone's kid possibly, but like you want to bone the mom and ask her to marry you, and then you bone the daughter.
Yeah, that's weird.
That's weird.
Look,
I'm very glad that is not the direction this fan.
Yes, I'm so glad too.
General fandom consensus is that there's only one in existence.
Okay, and so it has to be that Ellie's mom bought it from Sarah's garage sale.
Yes. Sarah sold the book at a garage sale, and I love that so much.
I know, that's so funny. She's like, she went on this huge adventure and then was just like, I don't care about the Goblin King anymore.
And I don't
it for like $5.
And so that book does it mean anything, or is that just another Easter egg? Because it didn't really do Ellie any favors, or does she have to make wishes on that book, or
book, I think it was just an Easter egg, because the original book, the whole point of it is that's what introduces Sarah to the concept of wishing her brother away.
Okay.
Which sets off the plot.
And then I don't even know how to guide this conversation with Sarah. Does somebody else want to kind of talk about that?
About Sarah showing up at the end?
Yeah, Sarah showing up at the end. Because they're like getting ready for prom something.
No, she was getting ready for her date, but she felt like she was getting ready for prom.
Oh, I thought
they were literally getting ready for prom. That's why I was confused.
Oh, yes.
That's why I was confused at the end.
Cinderella moment.
And Sarah was Sarah a teacher or something?
No, she was visiting them in the underground to give her blessing.
Okay, that epilogue was confusing. How come all these fanfics, the last chapter is just confusing?
If you read the title,
they're trying really hard to tie everything up.
I feel like Sarah showing up kind of undercut the whole thing.
Yeah,
because Sarah in this story would be 36, and all I could think about was she would be a much better queen.
Yeah, Ellie is a character. She had no real person. I mean, I guess she was sweet, but that doesn't make a main heroine of a story.
She wasn't really a heroine. She was a damsel in distress, really. Like she.
But I guess this is Cinderella we're talking about. I keep treating it like
Cinderella. She was kind and good-hearted and good-willed. And she showed other people kindness when she was not shown kindness herself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But that was her character. Like she was going to get out of her abusive situation once she graduated from high school, but then the Goblin King showed up and he whisked her away before that happened. So it was like yes, she was going to save herself, but she didn't have the opportunity to save herself.
Yeah, and I like
she finishes high school.
She does. They say that he's like, oh yeah, you can finish high school, then just come live with me down in the underground.
Yeah, and he even said, he's like, we can split our time between above and below so you can go to college and pursue your journalism career.
I must have completely missed that. I'm glad you guys read it.
Like, the Goblin King is a total feminist.
It's like, you go have your own
yeah,
life,
you go do your own thing.
I am a supportive husband.
Yeah, he's very supportive throughout this entire story.
Yeah, which made me that's what made me like it.
Yeah,
that he was very kind and supportive of her.
I think as male characters go, he was a very woke male character.
Especially for 2011.
Especially for 2011. I know, that's like before a lot of our big feminist strides that we've had over the past couple of years. Yeah, I just wish that I really enjoyed his character. I just wish that he wasn't necessarily the Goblin King. Like, I think he'd be great in another story. Just that type of perspective would be great in another story.
Yeah, or if she was older.
I could have lived with it if she was older, but then they would have to completely restructure her home situation.
It would also be a mental abuse situation as well as physical abuse, because that's what a lot of domestic violence... That's what's
keeping her staying.
People.
Because I can only imagine...
When husbands are beating their wives, and the wife doesn't leave, it's because she doesn't feel like she has anywhere to go. Yeah. She feels trapped. And so that would be a whole nother layer to the story that they would add, and it would be a lot darker.
There's a lot of domestic abuse, parental issues, and they always end the same way, with a wish and then the Goblin King coming and saving them or whatever.
Yeah.
Interesting to see that, because not every fandom, even like fandoms of superheroes, that's not really the trend. But with Labyrinth, it seems like almost every fic is something abuse related.
Interesting.
Although, to be fair, I haven't read anything like that since 2011 to 2013. Well, I tend to curate my stuff more now.
I think that that trend, I don't necessarily read that content, but I definitely see it, where there is a character that's usually like a self-insertion type character or something, and they're experiencing some sort of abuse, whether it's emotional, physical, societal, like being bullied at school, and they're taken out of that situation. In the case of the Labyrinth, it's a wish and the Goblin King coming, but you see it in stories where like some guy is like really rich and into them, and he just kind of starts paying for their life, which is really unhealthy. But you see that in fanfics, like and like a gang, like the mafia taking you in type of thing. That's a really weird BTS fanfic trend where they're like gang members that pick up girls off the street. I have
Korean mafia.
Oh god.
Yeah, or like the Yakuza. Ollie, we've read Yakuza Naruto stuff where that have you run into that Ollie?
I don't think I've read anything about like gangs taking.
I haven't read it. I just see the description, because I'm not really into that. But I've seen it in other fandoms, and it's usually situations where there's like some sort of idol worship involved, where that character is just taking them away from everything bad that they've experienced.
And that's the same thing I was thinking of for like the Labyrinth stuff. It's also, again, it's part of the whole Cinderella trope.
Yeah, totally a Cinderella trope.
Being saved, and I think that's why, because a lot of people grew up with Disney movies.
And I mean, pretty much every Disney princess has
early
some
Disney movies,
kind of
exactly.
Yeah, someone takes her away from everything that's bad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think it definitely affected how people who wrote, people our age, wrote fanfics when we were younger.
And we're kind of getting out of that age, because when we were kids, that's when people would have been watching Cinderella and whatnot. Kids nowadays, they have a whole new set of shows and fandoms and whatnot to grow up with that are more positive and have stronger female influences. So I definitely see that going away, but I have noticed, and you even kind of see it in Korean dramas too, where these average girls are like, they're whisked away and taken care of by, they're always the CEO of some company. But
if I was like if I was a teenager, I would probably like this story a lot more, because it's like when you're younger, you just want someone to whisk you away from all your troubles, but when you're an adult, you can't just be whisked away. You have to like solve it on your own and be an adult.
I don't think
and figure it out.
I don't think I ever had a fantasy at any point in my life of being whisked away.
Really?
Never. No. But I've always been, that's my personality. I'm pretty, I'm a realist. Any other things we want to go over for this book?
We covered a lot.
We did. We had a lot of discussions. We had some tangents too.
I thought it was a very sweet, cheesy story.
It took me back. It took me back to like what I used to just devour all the time. It was a good nostalgic story. I appreciated it.
I mean, I enjoyed it too, because like when I was younger, that's all I read was that drama romance type of genre, and it's like hit every little thing of like girl with a tragic past meets a guy, then happily ever after, like that. Yeah, I definitely consumed that kind of stories from fan fiction. But
absolutely,
I actually wished it was longer and like more thought out, or like not thought out, but like the author just delved into a little more and gave the characters more
life, more teeth.
The Ellie, because like they gave Jareth more. I mean, like maybe because we actually knew who he was, so we knew more about him. But like Ellie just didn't have much character to her.
I was just gonna say, one thing I wish I had seen was more Cinderella beat. I feel like if you're gonna call it Cinderellic, a couple more of those beats would have been good.
Because it was only Cinderellic in the fact that she came from an abusive situation, and then he, as her fairy godmother / prince, kind of whisked her away from what happened to her.
Another one where Cinderella ends up with the king.
Yeah. Yeah, she gets her own kingdom. Nothing wrong with it at all.
Nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, I feel kind of like a jerk saying this, but I wasn't super keen on this story.
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, we were just saying how we used to love these kind of stories, but you were saying that you didn't.
Yeah, I
think there's some nostalgia for us,
for you guys,
I can see where it wouldn't touch you like that.
Yeah.
That was a weird sentence, sorry. I was like, well, that's not the right word.
No, it makes sense, because this was never something I was into. I liked the escapism of fan fiction for like fun, fantastical kinds of stories, and this was a little more of a downer than I like a story to be, unless it's like a really well told downer that's more of a character study of people that are surviving tough situations. But this one was just kind of like they had their foot in the water of being a really deep, dark, angsty story, but not really hitting the mark.
That's fair.
And when I was younger, I just totally avoided that stuff because I just wanted like fun stories. And now I've read some fan fictions that do a much better job of exploring that psyche of angsty characters, and this one doesn't. So I mean the romance scenes were hot. I mean, but that's about my only that's like my only comment on that. Take it or leave it, this one. So, what would you guys rate this story out of 5
crystal balls?
5 crystal balls.
No, let's do glass slippers again.
5 glass slippers.
Sorry.
I think that I would rate this probably 2.5 to 3 glass slippers. It's like right in the middle.
Okay.
That's fair.
I think I would give this like a 4. A 4. A solid 4. What is this? Glass slippers or crystal balls?
Yeah.
Glass slippers.
I'm sorry.
Glass slippers equate to crystal balls.
Ignore me.
Yes. Same family. But yeah, a solid 4, I think.
That's fair. That's fair. Was there anything that really stood out that bumped it up to a 4?
Because this is kind of like the genre that I always fall into, is the romance drama.
That's totally fair. Yeah.
I am not a fan of like comedy or parodies.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
Like our previous one. So that's why this is getting a lot more points in comparison to other stories.
Are you rating this higher because this was your choice?
I was wondering if any of that was involved.
Ooh.
No, I just like a good drama. Not that this was the great drama romance. More romance than drama.
I'm just teasing you.
All right.
I will go. I will go. I want to give it a 3. Like a good solid, nearly smack dab in the middle 3. Just because, again, it was good. It was something that I have enjoyed in the past. But I'm just so much pickier now about what I consume. Especially, like, I wouldn't say it took me by surprise because it's literally the first sentence. Mm-hmm. But I appreciate warnings about violence. I like to know what I'm getting into.
Mm-hmm.
And that's more on the website than the actual story. But, you know.
Yeah.
I'm just
I would appreciate it.
A little pickier than I used to be.
Yeah. AO3 does a better job of curating that kind of stuff than FanFiction does. I would rate this book. I'm like teetering between a 2 and a 3, so I'm just gonna say a 2. I'm just gonna go with a 2.
Right.
It wasn't too nostalgic for me, but it gets a point for Jareth being very woke, and another point for tastefully doing a teen romance sex scene.
Good on.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, and it's classy. Thank you for listening to the FanFiction Book Club. Our pick this week was Breathe, a Cinderella Labyrinth by Diana K. Wary. You can find this story and more of the author's work on fanfiction.net. Theme song is Funkorama by Kevin MacLeod. You can find more at Kevin's music on incompetech.filmmusic.io/artist/Kevin-MacLeod. The works discussed on the FanFiction Book Club are not our own. All characters mentioned belong to the original authors. Cheers!
Yeah, boy!
What?